Happy Mercury Day, collective. Hope everyone's doing well. I am jumping on here in the name of do more, think less. I want to jump on here real quick as I'm preparing my famous homemade chicken salad. I wanted to get on real quick and talk about some of the upcoming retrogrades and to answer the general question that I think is like looming in the air collectively. Like, what is that feeling? Like, what's going on? Aside from the things I've talked about in what's my longest video yet, the last video that I still highly recommend, even if you have to break it up into smaller increments to sort of get the post eclipse season debriefing and then like the aftermath and then the sort of general flavor of what I think the collective sentiment is, will be, and is moving into, you might say. So, one, if you are already subscribed, you know I appreciate and love y'all. Welcome back. And then, if you're not, I would really appreciate it if you go to the channel page and hit subscribe so that this little channel can grow. But still, in all, I really value this space as my uh, little forum of creative expression, I guess. Symbolic expression of bringing what's inside to the outside. So thanks for everyone that finds that little slice of, I guess, familiarity that you might have within yourself. You feel seen here. I really am grateful to have the chance to lead these, I guess, discussions. Although it's me talking into this camera, I feel sort of this like space that I don't otherwise feel like I have had I not created this channel. So there's something comforting to me to know that this little, I guess, video diary will exist indefinitely on the internet until the whole internet is canceled. Who knows when that will be or under what conditions. But the reason I want to talk about some of the upcoming retrogrades is because if you watched the last video where I mentioned how Pisces has been like a major player in this year, really, but especially with eclipse season, because for both the lunar eclipse at the end of March and the total solar eclipse in Aries, when we went to the where the ruling planet for each of those signs where they occurred was, so like for the lunar eclipse, we were like, oh, that's in Libra. Venus rules Libra. And we tracked where Venus was at that moment, and it was in Pisces. So we had to kind of get the flavor of the lunar eclipse that occurred at the end of March by going and kind of incorporating the archetype of Pisces and also looking at what was going on in Pisces at that same time. So this whole year, what has been going on in Pisces is both Neptune and Saturn. So we had to incorporate those themes as well. So then fast forward to April 8th, where we had our total solar eclipse in Aries. We were like, all right, what planet rules Aries? Oh, that's Mars. And wouldn't you know it, Mars was in Pisces at that time. So we had to incorporate that flavor of Pisces with the presence of Mars, Saturn, and Neptune. So what's interesting about where we find ourselves now is, of course, all those other planets have moved past Pisces, but what is still happening in Pisces is Saturn and Neptune, except Saturn and Neptune are like exceptionally loud these days for a couple reasons. Number one, we had our full moon in Capricorn on the 21st of June. Okay, so bear with me here. Full moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So just like everything I just said, we're like, well, where's Saturn? Oh, there it is in Pisces, just like we know. So the flavor that we got from this past full moon, and for anyone that doesn't know this, the full moon is generally like sort of like a culmination of energy. It's like a kind of a fullness. It's sort of it's if the new moon is like sort of clean slate, like intention setting, planting seeds. The full moon is sort of like this culmination of feelings to where you might have this like depending on the area of your chart, Capricorn rules over that life area. There's sort of this magnification of feelings and sort of this assessment, whether you were like looking to have it or not, about where you are and where you would like to be in that area of life. So again, another benefit of having your chart done is so you would know, maybe you intuitively know, and that's something that's perfectly within reason, especially if you find yourself on this watching this channel. But even if you don't, you just go and look at like the area of life or the house that Capricorn rules over, and you probably will find that that checks out. So June 21st, we had this kind of culmination of Saturnian energy with that full moon. And so when we go to the I had mentioned in, I can't remember which video, maybe the last one, maybe the one before that, I don't know. I had mentioned that the next full moon that we have, July 21st, that will also be in Capricorn. And so that except is going to be at the very end. So where the June 21st full moon in Capricorn was at the 1st degree of Capricorn, it's a really interesting sort of like, you want to do a little bit of like sort of a reflective exercise. I had suggested on sort of journaling, even it's not too late now. You can recall like that, those feelings that came up June 21st, kind of jotting them down and then revisiting that on July 21st for the second full moon in Capricorn that occurs at 29 degrees, which is the anaretic degree. 29 degrees, every zodiac sign, every slice of the pie is 30 degrees. And so of course, once you hit 30, you're technically like getting into the next sign. So 29 degrees is the last degree of any sign, 29 degrees and 59 minutes. So we're going to have the full moon on July 21st in Capricorn at that anaretic degree. It'll be a good time to assess like any progress that might have been made in this last month or so. And so because Saturn rules Capricorn, we're going to have to be bringing in the themes of Pisces both times. Now, I'm going to guess that lately, if I had to guess when the things that are going through your head and the themes that you might find swirling around, whether you were wanting them to or not, can probably be tracked back to about, maybe March of last year. I want to say March of 2023. And how would I know that? Well, that's because that is when Saturn entered Pisces. And you notice when a sign like Saturn enters Pisces, because if I'll go over the archetype of Pisces for a minute, Pisces is ethereal. It's about formlessness. It's the dreamscape. It's romanticism. It's like sort of like that mermaid, long flowing hair, like coming up out of the ocean. Venus, like even though it's not ruled by Venus, Venus is exalted in Pisces. But Pisces is the dreamscape, and it's the body of water that we liken it to is the ocean. It's like a very psychic sign, a very intuitive feeling flowing. It wants to it doesn't want to be bound. It wants to extend itself all around, which is why people with very prominent Pisces placements find often one of their main battles in life is like learning how to construct boundaries simply for their own ability to cope with life. I mean, they are like psychic sponges. And so, you could be the most self-absorbed Pisces, like just sort of emotionally mature. It wouldn't matter, just by nature of that energy being prominent in your chart. You will go in a crowd, whether the vibes are good or bad, and you're just going to soak up all that energy. It's just, it's something that's happening way deep down that you're not necessarily controlling. And that's why as you get older, as someone with prominent Pisces placements, you probably become more and more aware of that intuitively and just trial and error, and you start realizing the importance of personal boundaries. You probably also find that you've stopped bothering explaining to people why you need a lot of solo, like isolated recovery time after being in groups, even if it's a fun group. So, in case you need that validation, sometimes a really social Pisces, someone that like has great groups of friends and finds themselves like going out and about and doing things that they love. And it doesn't matter, like I said, whether the event is like stressful or just like exciting, they're going to need that emotional recovery time alone, simply because of that emotional formlessness. So then, if I go to the archetype of Saturn, Saturn is like the opposite of that. Saturn is structure and boundaries, and you might associate it with like rigidity, but it's like containment and discipline and rationing and the long haul. It's like reserved because of this natural understanding of what has to be left for a month from now and 2 months from now and so on and so forth. So um, Saturn, it's like associated with thresholds and delayed gratification and someone with strong Saturnian energy in their chart. So like prominent Capricorn, prominent Aquarius, even placements. You kind of get that sort of natural stoicism about them, and like especially if you have a Saturn ruled moon, so a Capricorn moon or even an Aquarius moon, because Aquarius is the modern ruler is considered Uranus, but like really we consider Saturn and Uranus co-rulers of Aquarius. So Aquarius moons are they're quirky and like often going to be like in their own little world, and like they might be the moons that come in and say something like just totally out there in a like be MIA in a conversation and like just come in and say something totally out there. I know several Aquarius moons actually, and that's how they are archetypally. And it's not even like they're reserved really. It's just they're because your moon is like your emotional world, and often how you end up expressing yourself, like communication wise. It'll be like, especially if you're in like a group chat, I have a group chat with two Aquarius moons, and it's always funny to me because they are the ones that will be like sort of like MIA, and then like they'll come in out of left field with like something, and it's like sometimes it's like something really weird, but I mean it makes sense because sort of everyone in the group chat's got their own little weird streak you find, but that's the nature of an Aquarius moon. It's sort of like they'll kind of jump into like a whole group chat will be going on, and then they'll just jump in, like not acknowledge anything that's gone on beforehand. It has nothing to do with like a deliberate ignoring on their part. It's just like something will happen and they'll pop up in their head. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to go on the group chat and share that. No regard whatsoever about what's going on. And so that's where the Uranus aspect comes in. It's like the MIA sort of like not very keen to just be, chatty necessarily on a group text. That's sort of like them being in their own little world, and like they'll probably give like more straightforward answers. Like if you ask them something, they'll probably have like a more Saturnian approach to answering it. But the Uranus really shows like in certain moments. So that's, to me, you can always tell the difference if you're really paying attention between like the Capricorn moon and like the Aquarius moon. But there will be similarities because of that Saturnian influence. So you get to Saturn and it's no wonder that when you look at when Capricorn season is, and it's marks the winter solstice. And so you can't have formlessness energy getting us all through the winter now, can you? It's just like you even look at like plants and like uh the cycle of all plants and trees, and how they all just sort of like the natural cycle is like a reservation of energy. So that's why it drops its leaves. Yeah, it's like we don't have the energy to get through the cold winter with limited supplies, like keeping all these leaves um on. We drop them all, and it's just the bare branches and uh just like bulbs. It's just like all the energy is kind of comes back, like it goes within, and it reserves its energy, And that's why, for all plants, even your house plants, funnily enough, anytime it's the winter, you're going to want to water them less. Like you do less to your plants, the ones that even you have as like your little pet plants, that aren't in the ground, um, or you're going to kill them. So Saturn is the ruling energy of the winter, and when you put it in a sign like Pisces, it's a very unique energy. And I find, though, it's often where really great art comes from, because if you really think about what is required for great works of art, like especially in fashion, it's one thing to have like the dreaminess of Pisces, and we all know this, like it's like all these sort of like, oh, once I am able to put all these thoughts into form, it's over for you guys. Like, lots of people can relate to the ideas and the imagination of Pisces, but you kind of need that Saturn to bring it into form, to make the formlessness, to bring form to it. And that's often what, is that not what art often is? So you'll see great works of art. That's why, I mean, I'm not like a huge fashion buff, but I've enjoyed, particularly, I don't know if this is something like, if you really want to understand archetypal energy of Saturn and Pisces, look no further than the fashion world. And even, like I said, you don't have to be like a fashion buff, just for the artistic spectacle, and really just challenging yourself to like let go, and just like sit back and just take in like all the different designers runway shows for seasons of 2023 and 2024. And I always recommend that, to really get like the spectacle of what Saturn in Pisces is. And I think it's like one of the best areas to get the sort of collective vibe, because one thing about really good fashion designers is, a lot of astrologers, like, I mean, I get it, but they'll often be like, oh, they definitely have astrologers on their team. And I'm like, no, I mean, that's not, that might be true, but I think it's actually way more likely that it's just in the nature of people that have made great names of themselves, like professionally in the fashion world. Attunement is their entire identity. Like, because like I say, it's not the planets that are causing the collective emotions. The planets are just the mirror. The planets are just the best, easiest way to, like, if you want to know, like, what is the collective vibe? Well, the planets are giving us like this sort of empirical way to map it out. And that's, to me, that's the predictive element of astrology. It's not that I'm a fortune teller. It's just like, well, based on like this long documented history, like going back to like ancient times and different cultures, across cultures, people have been mapping out like what's happening above, and documenting what was happening below, at the same time. And so therein lies like the whole discipline of astrology. Um, it's predictive in that sense. And so that's why I say you could just be like a master of like reading and books and taking in information that way, but it's not, you're not going to have the whole puzzle unless you kind of have to be a people person. Like, you doesn't mean you have to be a social butterfly. It's just like there's no way to ignore humans and the importance that they play in the grand, the grand, uh, I guess, universal, universal energy. Like, it's all tied together. But like, the whole reason that we have disciplines of study, at least among humans, is to like presumably understand one another better. I mean, it seems obvious, but like I think it's worth repeating often, especially in this like very like AI exponential growth age. Like, we can't forget the human element. Like, that's the whole point of everything, really. So um Saturn in Pisces is I guess another way to put it, aside from bringing form to what is formless, is it's like a disillusionment. And I think that's kind of like where I'm going with like the feeling of discomfort. Yeah, like, it's fun to like make art and tap into the energy of Saturn in order to bring those feelings of Pisces from inside to the outside, like as sort of like your symbolic expression, whether it's through poetry or anything that is requiring the discipline and structure of Saturn. But when you also look at what Saturn does, if Pisces is romanticism and ideals and sort of the rose-colored glasses type energy, Saturn's going to come in and like kind of do a serious inventory and be like, okay, are we let's get fucking serious for a second, is kind of what Saturn is doing. And that's why it feels so rude. You're like, why am I feeling like this? You know, I wasn't really asking for this, but like that's the thing. And so you're also, you know, it's exacerbated really because when we go to Neptune, so Neptune is considered like a co-ruler of Pisces along with Jupiter. Neptune's little glyph is literally like the trident, like Poseidon's trident. Um, and Neptune is, I like to call it the Delulu lemon planet. And so all those archetypal qualities that I said about Pisces, well, it's a lot of those same words basically. Neptune, but Neptune is good energy in terms of like because you know Jupiter is its co-ruler with Pisces, so Jupiter is like expansion and optimism, and Neptune sort of is that almost higher ideals type energy, sort of like Jupiter, but like in a way that feels like more dreamy and like imagination. Like I think the most positive manifestation of Neptune energy is like vivid imagination, like just sort of that like artistic flair that some people just emanate like from their core. And so that's also really contributing to like what I have seen and I think we'll continue to see at least over the next year or so, really great works of art, including like music of all sorts of mediums. But what's really interesting about Neptune right now is Neptune is at 29 degrees and like 29 degrees and 55 minutes. So to be clear, the very end of any sign will be 29 degrees and 59 minutes. And so Neptune is just like just pushing that very, very last boundary of Pisces. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac of all the 12. It begins with Aries and then it goes all the way through the 12. And Pisces is the last one before you get to Aries. So like it's not just the last degree and like almost last minute of Pisces. It's like the last degree and like the last minute of the zodiac, which is a really significant energy because Pisces is like it's an outer planet, so like a collective planet. The energies will be felt more on a collective, broad scale, and you know it takes like 14 years for Neptune to get through one sign. So do the math there. The last time that Neptune was where it is now was it's like 1859 18 it was a long time ago. And it's really interesting because it's an energy that when you couple it with all the other things and like Pluto moving into Aquarius and like the eclipse season that we had and how these themes just all seem to be like working together to really like kind of push everyone into this like elevated consciousness. That's really what it boils down to. That's why I have gone more overtly into the cognitive neuroscience area of things, and like the talking about Federico Fagin, like I did in the last video, the inventor of the first commercial microprocessor, and people that have had to understand like the brain and like the way it works and like which is kind of required in terms of like getting their hands on the technological aspect of things. And like even this cognitive neuroscientist I've talked about, Donald Hoffman, he's over at UC Irvine, but like in his studies. Like part of his background is like getting his PhD at MIT and like working in their AI department back in the 70s. So the emergence of the new AI digital age, it seems like everywhere, and like the pace just exponential, like hard to almost keep up with. It's necessarily getting into questions of like human consciousness and like sort of what happens when you look at like the collective energies underlying this age that, like I said, the planets aren't causing, they're just telling us about ourselves. Like it's a way to sort of look and get this almost like empirical understanding based on the past of what all these energies kind of like merge to create like a whole new thing in the context of this era. So um, right now, Saturn is at like 19 degrees and something minutes of Pisces. I don't really know the exact degree. And Neptune, like I said, is at 29 degrees and 55, 56 minutes of Pisces. And we have coming up, so I've written down these retrograde periods we have coming up. And you might want to jot these down because, like I said, if you're doing this sort of self inventory and just trying to, if you really want to understand the archetypes and maybe look at your own life, this is the best way to learn. Is like I've said before, live the astrology, like go and live your life, like jot these down to the side and just like leave it alone, and then live your life. And then like if something notable happens, just like jot it down and maybe go back and like see if you can find any patterns. Like start doing the pattern recognition within the context of your own life. There's no better way to learn than that. So the very first retrograde that we've got coming up here, we've got Saturn retrograde. You're going to notice it. Okay. I'm just going to say, spoiler, you're going to notice it. And that happens on Saturn's day, Saturday, June 29th, 2024. It will station retrograde at 19 degrees and 26 minutes of Pisces. And I guess the important, I think, the best way to describe a retrograde planet, especially like a really large one like Saturn, is the best analogy is like imagine a ship, a big cruise liner or something, and imagine it just like going at like the steady pace, right? And then imagine like, oh, a course, like a change of course, change of direction is like coming up. And so if you imagine what that would feel like, the feeling, the closer it gets to that June 29th date in this case, the closer we get, so like right now, this period, it's like you're starting to feel the full weight of it. It's like as it's slowing down, about to like come to this like sort of pause and then like essentially reverse, at least in the perspective from here on Earth. Imagine what that would feel like. Like it's got this pace and it's going, got this momentum. And the closer it gets to that like stop, that's when you really feel the weight. It's sort of like, all right, it's like maximum discomfort of the energy of everything I've said about Saturn and Pisces, coupled with Neptune at that energetic degree. It's like all those feelings that you might feel like, oh, that's just a thing to think about later. Spoiler alert, it's like it's later now. Like here it is, it's later. So uh don't, whatever you resist persists, okay? Like that seems trite to say, but maybe just keep that in mind. Like you are part of the collective, and that is an energy um, that you are a part of. Like it's just the way it is. So I kind of look at it as like, if you already have something that you would like to get like a clear handle on, or if you already have like some artistic thing that you've just been like clawing its way out from the inside, you know what I mean, that like sort of creative drive to where you're like, I got to get this out. Like a lot of writers describe like especially you find a lot of writers, they kind of like don't, they're late bloomers. Like they don't, a lot of their great works don't come until like their late 30s and 40s. And if you think about why that is, it's like I could go into Saturn cycles that manifest in people's lives personally, but aside from that, I just like archetypally about like the sort of journey of what lots of people experience through the 30s and late 40s. You finally get to the point as a writer or an artist, like the inner artist, the expressive, um, sort of like that Piscean energy of like formlessness, like it's like busting at the seams, and you finally realize like I have to bring what's inside to the outside. And I think that that's what I would describe a good thing to channel for this energy is, because like there are a lot of things that we all like. Disillusionment is like not a fun place to be, because you're like, oh, delusion's kind of fun, like a little bit of delulu to get through, as they say. But that's fine and all until it's not, like you don't want to like sit there your whole life and be like, oh, you guys should just see the creative works that exist in my head. It's like, sure, but okay, like you might say that the whole point is for it to reach other humans. Like in order for it to touch other people, you have to find a way to bring what's inside to the outside. That's just the whole inconvenience of it all, right? Of being an artist, is because, often the creatives are like, I don't want to keep records. I don't want to take notes. I don't want to plan it out on paper. I just want to do it. I relate to that so hard. It's just like, it's painfully, even like I can't fully express it. So, but the reality is, like, in order to bring form to the formless, what do you think that looks like in the material world? Like, it literally is like, all right, let's make a plan. Let's like, whether it's a financial plan for your supplies, or like a plan for like, if you have like, writers talk about like the deadlines of like this draft and that. It's literally like the most torturous part of bringing what's on the inside to the outside as a writer, I'm sure. And so, um, but it's all part of the process. Like you have to do that. And that's why I say what's the value of talking about all this? Well, if we give the energy something to do, then that's one way to prevent like having the energy do something with us. Like give the energy something to do, so that like this sort of discomfort of Saturn like slowing down, and like that full weight of like, oh Lord, like let me review the consequences of my action or inaction over a period of time. That's what the discomfort is, because it's this natural like assessment of like, where am I? Am I happy with that? Where do I want to be? But if you can find a way to, when you feel that sort of anxiety, it often I think manifests as anxiety, and like this, you go like soothing, like trying to soothe it in other ways, often like not the most productive ways. Or you're just like scrolling, which like does not help at all, like, but it's like almost just a thing to do. You're like, oh, I'm doing something, but it's like not really doing anything. The thing that's clawing at you from the inside is like to bring what's inside of you to the outside, not what someone else has done on the internet. And I think that's like, I love the internet. Here I am on the internet. And I love getting ideas. I like being exposed to other people's ideas, and like decor and like gardens, all that stuff, and like jokes, memes, meme culture, all of it. But like at the end of the day, someone else created the memes. Like, to their credit, someone else had a thought and they brought form to it and they created the meme. And like you're a consumer of it, and that's cool and all, but like um the satisfaction the person that made the meme gets from making it um is theirs. And like you still have that desire to create. That's the thing. We want to engage in like other people's creations, and because that's sort of like a meeting of like our shared experiences. You're seeing it, and it's like memes are like the new tarot in a way. That's like how tarot works. They're these like images that speak to like a shared experience that you don't need many more words beyond what's in the meme to express. It's like you feel seen for a moment, but like you're still not addressing the thing that needs to come out of you. And so that's why I say like there's no better time to deal with not just any Saturn retrograde, but like this Saturn retrograde specifically. For heaven's sake, like create something. Please create something. Create a delicious dish, create art, make collages, like do journal. Like if you're not like a big words type person, um, do like image boards. Like I've seen really, I found this like YouTube channel. I don't even remember what it's called, but it's like I love watching it sometimes, because it's all these little journals like someone has, and they'll just like make these little collages on this like pretty small journal, just blank pages, and it'll be like cut out pictures that like inspire them, and like stickers and like pretty markers, or like even materials, like pretty little materials, and it's just like this collage, like this sort of free expression collage on these journal pages, and then they just like shut it, and that's their expression for the day. So I really like, you know, I really like seeing that, because I think to myself, like, think of all those like blank journals you have laying around. And we're like, oh, I'm gonna write in these or whatever. And then the prettier they are, like the less likely you are to actually like start writing in them for some reason. So I've committed myself to like, I'm gonna like, I think I'm gonna start doing like more free form journaling, just using like little tiny found objects that like can flatten out nicely, or pretty like stickers that like you're like, where do I put stickers, and then like you never use them. Incorporating them into like a little journal, and like a little piece of like an invitation you get from someone that means a lot to you, like cutting off a little piece of that as like a way to get it out of your drawer, but like keep a little piece of it, like glue that, and then like using colors or markers or like other things that like express how you felt at that event. And you don't even have to think of any words, and that's the thing. That's the formlessness of it. But by doing it, by bringing it into the 3D world, there's the Saturn part. So that's my advice about this kind of upcoming discomfort period of Saturn going retrograde. And so just to go like sequentially, the next retrograde is you're gonna feel it because it's Neptune. I just said all that stuff about Neptune. So we've got our second player in Pisces, Neptune, the Lululemon planet, but the imagination planet. Neptune will go retrograde on Tuesday, July 2nd. So then you're really gonna be feeling the Saturn retrograde and the Neptune retrograde. And then you're really gonna be like, what was that girl saying about journaling? What was that girl saying about creativity? Like, let me go back. Please do it. Just don't overthink it. Do like a channel the Neptunian and Piscean energy and just go with the vibes. Uh, put on music. One really good suggestion, especially for Jupiter and Gemini, to stimulate your mind, but also to bring out like something in you that you might not know is there. Like explore a different genre of music. Like just do like light research, or like look on iTunes or whatever about like what's popular, and then just trust the ratings. Like I can say that they're pretty reliable, especially if you're using like Apple Music, and just be like, why is this like composer so popular? And just play something from beginning to end, like free your mind and like tap into a whole new genre. Have you never, exploring like electronic sort of like vibes, or like house music? Just do it. Don't overthink it. And then like maybe chop some vegetables while you're at it. If you already got to be doing something, and just let it kind of bring you into like an expansive mindset, while you're also like channeling it into something productive, as the Saturnian energy is going to want to make you want to do. But start like engaging in the arts in more ways deliberately, because I find that like, especially if you grew up and like you struggled, like you came from a family that didn't have a lot of resources, if you kind of are, were used to like spending most of your life in survival mode, who knows what kind of latent talents are there. Like you just don't know what's there within you, like cooking. You could be, maybe no one ever taught you to cook, but like what if you just have like this really unique like ability to like engage the senses, and like bring form to it by like combining like spices with certain foods in a certain way. Like you have to start seeking out new situations creatively, um and then almost create discomfort in that way, is kind of what I'm saying. Is like, you're gonna experience discomfort when it comes to like the disillusionment of like the facts of your life. Why not just like kind of go all the way into it, like dive into discomfort and be like, well, I'm going to take like a ballroom dancing class, even though I'm going to feel ridiculous. I'm going to take a cooking class, even though I don't know what I'm doing and I feel like I'm going to be the dumbest one in the class. Like I'm going to take like a painting class, even though I literally I can't even draw like a stick figure. It's just it's not, you need to get over the need to be like the best at something. And you don't want to live your whole life in that sort of like, seeking out the familiar just so you can feel comfortable. That's literally the recipe for, that's inertia. That's just becoming somebody who will never expand or like get better at things, learn more things. And we're not here to be static. We're just not. So I think this is a great time, honestly, from now until the end of the year, based on all the other energies. Really just going for it. That thing that you've just said, oh, I'm going to do this, just do it. If you can find a way to like take a class, don't overthink it. Don't take it too seriously. And honestly, it will create new connections in your brain. You might find you're really good at something you just never knew you were good at. And then you might go through a whole phase where you're like kicking yourself thinking, God, look at how much of my life, like I didn't know. Well, it's never too late. It's a good thing you know now. So do that and seek out the discomfort in ways that are actually fun and enriching. Start going to your local art museum. You know how many people I've talked to in my own city? We have a great art museum here, and it's free. And like, there's an outdoor area too with like sculptures and like gardens. It's just like, so it's even a place to go and exercise. Like if you just want to walk around outside while taking in art and beautiful things. Like, so many people in my own city have like never been to our art museum, and I'm like, it's insane. I mean, it's like one of the few things you can go and do for free, like one of the few non-commercial third-party spaces to where you can just go, like, and it's like every day of the year. And so wherever you live, look up where your closest art museum is, and if it does cost something, it's usually like nominal. um and just like, it's one of my favorite things to do by myself. If I'm visiting a city, I have this like routine. I'm like, okay, where are the local coffee shops? I want to try like as many as I can, ones I can't get at home. And where is the art museum? And that right there is like an afternoon or more of a very inexpensive time in a city. It's a really good way to get to know a city if you think about it. So um, please, if you find yourself just wanting to maybe channel like being a tourist in your own city, or if you find yourself in another city, you've got some time by yourself, or if you go on a business trip, you have like a free afternoon, look up where's the art museum here, and really get to know that city and the people of it, because what better way than to see the inner world brought to form of the people of that city, right? So to review, Saturn retrograde this Saturday, June 29th, 2024. Then July 2nd, 2024, we got Neptune going retrograde. And then next up, we've got a more common retrograde, Mercury retrograde. That'll happen August 5th. It'll be retrograde pretty much the whole month of August, which again, Mercury retrograde is like very common, but everyone will be like, Mercury's in the microwave, Mercury's in Gatorade. My thoughts aren't working, and like, it's kind of a scrambling type energy. It quite literally will manifest as electronics going, doing weird things. But that'll be August 5th, August to August 28th. And so when it stations retrograde, it will be in Virgo. It'll be at 4 degrees 6 minutes of Virgo on August 5th, and then it'll start making its way backwards back into Leo. So then by the time we get to August 28th, it will be at 21 degrees 25 minutes of Leo. That's where we'll station direct. And then last up, but definitely not least, we've got Uranus. So I started this whole spiel talking about Saturnian energy, and then like the weirdo energy of Aquarius, because it's co-ruled by Uranus. And Uranus is going to be starting its retrograde period September 1st. And that's going to take us into 2025. Now, there's like a lot going on with Uranus. And again, that will be for another video, because like there's like a whole other side thing to go into with that. Many side things to go into. But I'm going to keep it focused to the retrograde points to note for this video. Uranus is going to go retrograde September 1st. When it does, it will be at 27 degrees and 15 minutes of Taurus. And it is going to stay retrograde until January 30th of 2025, at which point it was have made its way back to 23 degrees ish of Taurus. So like to get an appreciation of like the pace at which these things move, Uranus being an outer planet like Neptune, like Pluto, it moves a lot slower. And so whereas, Mercury will make its way all the way through those first like several degrees of Virgo, and then like through like almost the last 10 degrees of Leo before it goes direct. Uranus, even though it will be retrograde for 5 months, the like chunk of Taurus that it travels is like a range of less than 5 degrees. So now Uranus energy is like, it's like the lightning bolt energy. It's the sort of revolutionary energy, like once the energy of Uranus strikes, like often it's like change, and then like nothing's the same. It's just, and so I hesitate. I'm careful to not like make it seem like this catastrophic, like, oh my goodness, like literal tower. But the tower card in tarot is sometimes like quite literally like shit's falling apart. But sometimes the tower is just like a moment to where your life is forever changed, and it could be for the better. It could be like, I never saw this coming. It could be winning the lottery, honestly. Like a Uranus event is often something so unexpected to where just by nature of like the magnitude of it, your life will not be the same. And like with things that seem like disastrous at first, there's the hidden key. You're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness this happened. And then like the other way, it's like something that seems like, wow, that was like the best thing that could ever happen. Well, they have a whole show about like how the lottery ruined my life. And it's not like it's because these were bad people. It's like when you don't imagine a certain reality for yourself, and then all of a sudden, like, bam, you weren't even eased into it. It's just like new reality just dropped. And well, this is this forever. That's a Uranus event. And so Uranus is like a very big player of the astrology of the next 2 to 3 years. Again, we'll go into that. There are many videos to come for that, so make sure you subscribe, because I like to talk more broadly about like why the next 2 to 3 years. And this is like a common this is like not just me saying that, every astrologer knows that the next 2 to 3 years is going to be a period of time that nobody alive has ever been through. And that is specifically because all of the outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, are going to, within this same like pretty small window, be changing signs. And like they have enormous like transits. Like it takes Pluto 235-ish years to make its way all the way around the zodiac. It takes Uranus like 84 years to make its way all the way around the zodiac. It takes Neptune like 165 years. So when you have all of these major players, and Saturn is like the next closest one, it's nowhere close to those long transits, but it does have about a 28 to 30 year transit to get all the way around the zodiac. So we have all the 3 outer planets plus Saturn within a 2-year window going to be changing signs, and often like coinciding with one of the others. And it will be a huge shift in energy, and there's just no other way to put it. And it will change, like when you notice, like for example, we'll just talk about Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, the formlessness, the water, mutable water, adaptable water. You're going to notice when Neptune and Saturn move into Aries, which is cardinal fire, like that is an entirely different energy. As I say in consults, like the planet is the planet, like that's the energy, but like the costume it's wearing is the sign. So like the costume of Pisces is like could not be more different than the costume of Aries. So yes, the planetary energies remain constant, but like when you put on a whole other like I like to use Beyonce as an example. Like I find that like in every consult, people are like, I really like this example because Beyonce is Beyonce. Like there's only one Beyonce. You know the energy of Beyonce, right? Um, but like just her Renaissance tour, for example, like her the costume changes like create a whole different vibe. Like it's like a whole other like feeling and like emotional sort of thing being communicated. The costumes really make Beyonce manifest. Like you just look at her like Renaissance, like Act One. You can even look at that whole album as one costume, and then like the whole country album as like a different costume of Beyonce. Like we all know it's Beyonce both times, but that's there's two very different energies. Like just listen to the albums back to back. And then so you've got the costume change of those planets, and then of course the value of having your chart done is the house is like the stage. It's like the set change. It's sort of in a play where the set changes, totally different like scenery. um if you want to know the areas of your chart where you're going to feel that costume change for just for the isolated example of Saturn and Neptune, well, first you would have to know what house or area of life Pisces governs, and then like look at the one after that, and that's the one Aries governs. So that would be a sort of another benefit of having just like a basic chart reading, um, so that again it really helps make astrology like useful to you, especially if like one of the things you struggle with is just like feeling like, is it just me? Like sometimes you just want to feel validated, and like sometimes you want to feel like more of a part of the collective experience. And for lots of reasons that can be hard for you. Like if you like have like if you're compromised, or if you're like disabled like mobility wise, or if you're just shy, or if you live in an isolated place. There's a lot of reasons why like somebody would be sort of not getting that like sort of connectivity that they crave with the collective. um, there are other ways to get it, and that's really why I like to have this channel, because sometimes I know, or you just might be in a place in your life to where you just are having trouble connecting, and like that will pass. um, but there's a good chance that you would like to still have this like minimum level of connectivity while you go through a hard time or you go through a transitional phase in your life. And so Uranus is very much about that. Like Uranus, for anyone that's looking to feel better right now, because of where it is right now in Taurus. Taurus is a fixed sign, fixed Earth. So if I'm going to, there are a lot of other like placements that it's affecting, but my special sympathies go out to anyone who we'll just go with your sun sign right now, because your sun is linked to your identity and sense of purpose in life, like who you are, that you almost feel like you lean into more as you get older, like the thing that you want to just sort of like um, get more comfortable in your own skin being, and you kind of get better and better at that with age. I find that people grow into their sun signs, which is ironic because most people's exposure to astrology early on is just with sun sign astrology. And I find that like the earliest sign technically that we all sort of just naturally express is our moon sign. But that's another tangent. So if you are born in the last 10 days of Taurus season, so I didn't have time to look this up. You can look it up. You can look up the date windows for Taurus. If you were born in the last 10 days of Leo season, so look up what is the date range for Leo, because each one's about 30 days. So if you're born in that last window of Leo, the last 10-day window, if you were born in the last 10-day window of Scorpio, or if you were born in the last 10-day window of Aquarius, you are going to be feeling what is known as the square, Sun square Uranus. Um, and this is going to be especially loud for when I talk about Taurus. So if you were born in the last window of Taurus, you're not experiencing the square, you're experiencing the conjunction. When Uranus crosses over your natal sun placement, you're changing, and like there's just no other way about it. Like your sense of identity is changing and shifting, and sort of like anything's on the table, whether it be for incorporation or chopping and like getting rid of, not identifying with those parts of yourself anymore. um so it's been rough out here. I would imagine for anyone with their natal sun in Taurus, um anyone like in the last, it doesn't have to be exact either, like anywhere in Taurus really, but especially like the last half of Taurus season. So like the last 10 to 15 days of like the window of Taurus, that has been a huge, Uranus has had a huge impact on you guys for like the last several years. um Now, when it comes to Leo, if you are born in those last 10 days of Leo season, you're experiencing the square, and the square is not comfortable. Like, at least with a conjunction, it's almost like we're changing, like it's here. It's almost like probably the biggest inconvenience is like the people in your life, like, what's up with you? What's going on with that? And it's almost the challenge for you is to find a way to manage your own self, figuring out that balance between like providing explanation and then realizing like where you don't have to explain yourself and that you're actually doing a disservice in doing so. But if you are at Leo or Aquarius, you're experiencing a square. And so that is sort of like a, uh-oh, I'm feeling that like a personal evolution is coming on. Like, who ordered this? And Uranus ordered it. So I regret to inform me, a late, the 29-degree Aquarius sun, and anyone who's towards the end of Leo, identity change is up, and the best way to ease discomfort is to just take it by the horns. Like, you decide, who is it that I really want to be, and what will make me feel like a sense of purpose, a purpose driven me. I'm going to take the lead on it so that Uranus doesn't take the lead, because either way, like, change is uncomfortable because we're like, oh, I'm not an expert in this version of me. Well, that's the whole point. So, Scorpio, this is another level of discomfort. This is like the opposition. The opposition is like the sort of yikes. So Scorpios, I'm so sorry. But you might actually be fighting this. Like, you might actually want to jump through this screen and like fight me on this right now. You might be arguing and being like, who cares about astrology anyway? Well, that's fine. But that's because you guys are experiencing the opposition to Uranus. And Uranus is like, it's like a showdown. That's the thing, because Scorpio is on the same axis as Taurus, but it's the exact opposite. So it's like you're having a showdown. Your natal sun, that's like, this is who I am. Like, no, I'm not changing for anyone. And Uranus is like, ha, like staring you down. But with any sort of direct opposition, so 180 degrees away from one another, that brings clarity, and that's the thing that you've got going for you. Like, opposition is almost like, if you were to just decide to at least like take what I'm saying and maybe like get over yourself on your own terms. Of course, you don't have to tell anyone that you listen to someone else. But if you were to just look at it that way, and then take control, that brings enormous clarity. Whereas at least like Leo and Aquarius, like the square is sort of like, like it's almost like a vice being tightened, and you're like, oh, I don't want to look, like, don't make me look. But it's happening. So like the advice is the same for Leo and Aquarius, but like Scorpio, there's nothing that brings more clarity than a direct showdown. Um, so that's how that is. Like, look to Taurus. Like, if you know a Taurus sun, look to see how they're handling it. And they're probably just they're fixed Earth, so this is all probably happening instinctually with Taurus people. It doesn't mean it's not uncomfortable, but they're just, the way a Taurus is, they're known to be stubborn for a reason. It's fixed Earth. They're like, well, here it is. Like, and if you look at just archetypally, what does any change in Earth, fixed Earth, entail? It's cataclysmic. It's like seismic, right? Like, when we look at the Earth, especially like fixed Earth, something that's been that way forever, and then you bring in Uranus, like it's literally an earthquake. And the person noticing, like the piece of Earth notices it, but everyone around it notices it too. And so please forgive your Taurus friends. because they're undergoing the Uranus transit, and then starting September 1st, it will be stationing retrograde for 5 months. So that might actually be, for what it's worth, when something like Uranus goes retrograde, yeah, you will start to feel it. But because Uranus is like change like that, it might actually start to ease up that sort of like the pace of how your identity, you're sort of trying on your new identity for size. It might slow the pace up a little bit. Actually, you might find this from September 1st through the end of January, it's sort of like easing up off your back a little bit. And then you actually get this like really unique time to start to, instead of like acting out, I like to like look at it as up until now and through September 1st, it's almost probably like sort of like a rebelling, like in an external way, like almost sort of like get off my back, like this is me, this is my life. It's probably like giving a lot of that. But when it goes retrograde, the Uranus stationing retrograde, it probably will be more internalized. It will probably be more reflective, and you going, okay, so for real, who am I, and like what do I need to do or stop doing to become the person that like I'm really starting to get an idea of who I want to be. And like I think that it will be a really um I think it'll be a great time for like, I mean, something is like grand is like a whole new epistemology of things, like an epistemological shift. Like, so in other words, the way that you see the world and like the way things work in general, like you, anything is up, like I said, for that huge Uranus, nothing's the same change. But you really get to set the tone, and it can be like as far encompassing as you want it to be. And I think the looking at the world around, and then like that chance to like have that more internal expression of the Uranus energy when it goes retrograde, I think that you'll find that something really great is going to be waiting for you at the end of it. That's what I think. So come January, you might, you not you might, I'm going to go ahead and challenge you to go take note right now and come back to these comments and like tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. At the end of January, you're not going to be the same person that you are right now. That's what I do know. And so it can be in any way that you want though, and you might as well be the master of it. And so what I do think is notable too, on that same day, what is it, September 1st, I'm not going to talk about Pluto because that's again a whole other thing. I have a whole video on Pluto and Aquarius, which I find to be more and more relevant if you really want to understand Pluto and Uranus energy, because Pluto being in Aquarius, Aquarius ruled by Saturn and Uranus, there's a lot of talk about the Uranus archetype in that video as well. So Pluto on this same day, it's been retrograde. So it's been sort of creeping its way back to the very, very early degrees of Aquarius. It's like at 1 degree something right now. It will actually make its first ingress back into Capricorn on that same day that Uranus goes retrograde, which I think is so interesting that those things are happening on the same day. I still haven't really figured out what that means, but it's interesting to me because, again, Pluto is leaving Uranus, the sign of Aquarius, officially, and like making its one last ingress back into Capricorn, where it had been the last 15 years. And it'll stay there and like totally wreak havoc on poor folks like me who have personal planets at the 29th degree of Capricorn. But I've been steamrolled and like gone back over and reversed and steamrolled with Pluto several times with my Venus at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So my special sympathy to anyone else out there who has a planet at 29 degrees of Capricorn, but Pluto will officially be making one last rollover on that placement, that point, on September 1st. And so it will be the last time it does that. It will finally, when it stations direct and like moves back into Aquarius at the end of this year, it's like there to stay. Can't remember the exact date. Like it goes direct and then like gets back out of Capricorn. But once it does, it's not going back to Capricorn. It will go retrograde over the course of its time in Aquarius, but it will be far enough along when it does to where it will just be retrograding and then going direct in Aquarius the whole time. So that's what's going on for the rest of the year in terms of like major retrograde energies. And remember about the retrogrades, like it's like the time leading up, you feel that like sort of full weight of the thing. It's like a slowdown and sort of like a heaviness. But then, like in the case of a lot of them, you know, when it's a planet like Uranus that's like lightning and like, whoa, 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 like, can things stop changing everywhere? That's kind of a welcome energy. So use these times as like points of like reflection and like self inventory, and to really become like the magician of these energies, because you are like, you can create, it's all raw energy, you can do anything you want with it. So I hope this helped. I've got my stuff chopped up for my fabulous chicken salad. As a side note, if you don't know this trick, one of the best my favorite things to do is like, I cooked up a bunch of chicken, and this is my stand mixer bowl. And one of the best ways to shred your chicken is putting it in your stand mixer and putting on the paddle attachment. I've used the whisk attachment before, but it just gets like really messy. It's like easier to use the paddle one. And then just let it do its thing. It will shred it all right up. You don't have to get like chicken all under your fingernails, which is like, no, I can't do it. So there's a little tip to end on if you want to use that energy to create. In the meantime, I hope you have a great remainder of your June. And I'm going to be traveling a little bit for the next like 2 weeks. So I don't know. I'll check back in, maybe from a distance, maybe not. I don't know. Take care until then.